So we don't really get it. All right, where's I put my book? Here is my book, tonight's book. Cohen's, The Gateless Barrier. This is one of the classic Cohen collections. So what we do, we're working our way slowly through this book, one a month. Tonight we're going to read number 30. I'll read the Cohen, the commentary, and the poem. And then I'll read it all again a little more slowly with some editorial gloss, and then we'll talk among ourselves. Hai Bai once asked Basho, "What is Buddha?" Basho answered, "Mine is Buddha." So the commentary: if you can once grasp it, you're wearing Buddha's clothes, eating Buddha's food, speaking Buddha's words, and living Buddha's life. You are a Buddha yourself. Though this may be so, Hai Bai has misled a number of people and let them trust a scale with a stuck pointer. Don't you know that one has to rinse out his mouth for 3 days if he's uttered the word Buddha? If he is a real Zen man, he will stop his ears and rush away when he hears "Mind is Buddha." So the poem: a fine day under the blue sky. Don't foolishly look here and there. If you still ask what is Buddha, it is like pleading your innocence while clutching the stolen goods. So there we have it. Wake up. All right, so let's go through it again. Hai Bai and Basho. Basho was one of the great Chan lineages in China, second generation after Huineng, who taught the Platform Sutra. It was written down after he died. So one of the great masters. And Hai Bai was one of his students. So the student asked the teacher, "What is Buddha?" One of the great questions. So again, what these koans are about, they're probing conversations, generally between a student and a teacher in the Chan. There was a shift that happened in Buddhist teaching in China, in this particular tradition in China, where there's a shift away from teaching by way of the sutras to an embodied teaching. So teaching by way of the sutras, you go to a university or a study group or a session like this, and somebody will present the sutra and then maybe some discussion, but basically you were learning from what were understood to be the actual teachings, the written teachings that were taken down, originally orally and then written by this historical person, the Buddha. And a shift happened where it shifted from being about that historical relationship with these texts, which were increasingly in this Chinese tradition, which is a very vibrant, lively culture. They're increasingly regarded as those are dead. It's about living this practice. And most specifically, it's about this lived experience through the exchange with the teacher. What they found was this dynamic conversation, this dynamic relationship between a student and a teacher allowed the teacher to really tune in with the student and help the student have these deep experiences of awakening. So these koans come from written collections of texts about each of these Chan masters. There are huge volumes, now volumes, of transmission of the light. The light is the Dharma, the light is awakening, the light is Buddha nature. So these huge collections called transmission of the light, which are where students would write this down. They've got these big robes and they've got these big long dangly sleeves and they've got inner robes. So they would write down what their teacher said on their inner sleeve. And then they go back to their room after, they write it down on the scrolls. So these texts collect these dialogues and The koan collections, in a sense, are the distillation of the essence, the highlights of those dialogue collections, the stories about these masters. And they're a distillation where there are moments in these conversations where something really happened, something magical happened between the student and the teacher, and the student had an awakening experience, either directly there or this set the stage for something later. So by handing them down, this is generally handed down in a student-teacher relationship, and they're taken in that relationship as something that the student and the teacher work on. So you are given a koan, and your koan will be this, and you will get the essence of the koan, the whatu, the turning phrase, which is, what is Buddha? What is Buddha? And the framework within that is, mind is Buddha. That may be your turning phrase. Mind is Buddha. What does that mean? And it doesn't have a logical meaning. It's like a joke, right? You've heard me say this before. It's like a joke. You can't explain a joke. If you do, it kills it. It's not funny. It's no longer a joke. You can't explain enlightenment. And a lot of the time what happened was the teacher used a tension. He didn't resolve anything for the student. And he'd set up this tension so that when the student had the breakthrough, that aha moment, it was a really deep breakthrough. And it's, oh, that's so funny. Ha, 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 right? Really laughed at the joke. Really got the joke deep. So that's an analogy for how this is working. So Taibo, Taibai, you think about it, you can think about it in this way. Taibai has been worrying this question for a long time. He's been practicing with Basho. Basho's been talking about Buddha, Buddha nature. He knows what Buddha is. Buddha's this dude who lived at this point like 700 years ago in India, another country, sent down these teachings, including teachings about Buddha nature. We know what Buddha is. And yet we're talking about an essence of Buddha nature within us. What is that? What is that? So he's been sitting with us and working with us for a long time, and he's stuck. He's hitting a wall. And it's a deep spiritual problem. So he's taking this deep spiritual problem to his teacher and saying, teacher, help me, help me, help me, I'm stuck. And the teacher's response is, mind is Buddha. How? Mind is Buddha? If you can at once grasp it, many years ago, this was a conversation that stuck with me. That was well over a decade ago, probably. Yeah, it was probably 20 years ago now. I was on a Zen retreat with Shohaku Okamura, who's now pretty much retired. He's one of the senior Japanese teachers in this country. He's up in Bloomington, Indiana. I was on a retreat, and I had this, at the time, just this incredibly profound experience where I was sitting, but I wasn't sitting. It was sitting. It. There's no way of explaining what it is, but it's like I recognized there really wasn't a me there. It was a very deep absorption state. There's no longer me here, but there is the experience of sitting. Who's sitting? Who's sitting? So you have these interviews, Dokusan they call it. You go see the teacher and talk with them about whatever's coming up. So I said, I just had this experience of it sitting. He looked at me and he laughed. He said, it's raining. Thank you. End of interview. It's the same it. Who is raining? What is raining? What does that even mean? Rain. It's like water falling down from the heaven, but no, it's not. That's out there. Your experience is in here. It's being decoded in this mass of grey stuff inside the skull that is utterly disconnected from what we think is the rain. Totally disconnected. There's a bunch of signals come in the eyes, you see it, a bunch of signals come in the ear, you hear it. here, right? And then those get turned into electrical impulses that go to the brain, and the brain does what the brain does. And abracadabra, there is rainfall. It's not rainfall. It's signals hitting the eye, signals hitting the ear, and then processed in here. What is that? What is that? It's the experience. Who is experiencing this? What does that even mean? Because experience doesn't do it justice. There's an experience and there's an experiencer and an experienced, subject and object. But there isn't. It's all in here, just like a dream. When you dream at night, it's all going on in your head, right? You're having conversations with people, flying and visiting people, doing whatever you do. And then you wake up and say, oh, that was just a dream. Think about it. You've got a me interacting with other beings inside your head. There's no subject and object. It's all me. Your experience of the real world is fundamentally the same in that there really isn't anything out there that you're experiencing. There is something out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pretending that it's all like made up. There's something out there. But what you're experiencing isn't it. What you're experiencing is all your overload. All your overload. %, I mean, this is a number that comes out of neuroscience. 90% of what we see is already in our heads. We get a bunch of visual input. And then the brain receives that visual input, does what it does with it. And actually, there's a lot of pattern recognition going on, correlating with previously stored similar patterns. There's shapes and curves and lines discerned and mapped against shapes and lines and curves that have previously been filed away. There's memories of people and shapes and objects. And all of this is thrown together, and cushions and mats and bells and clays and camerons and stuff is made up. Right? Because it's just, and 90% of that is already in here. Only 10% is this new info. So what is it? What is it? If you can at once grasp it, you are wearing Buddha's clothes, eating Buddha's food, speaking Buddha's words, and living Buddha's lives. There was a Zen master at one point said, I'm wearing Buddha's clothes, but there's no body. I'm eating Buddha's food, but there's no mouth. I'm speaking Buddha's words, but there's no mouth. I'm living Buddha's life, but there's nobody living. This is a lived experience of no self. There is just this experience. And again, there is. What's going on there? Another Zen master said, his name was Linchi. He said, there is a real person going in and out of the 5 apertures, which are your eyes, your ears, as would be, I think it was 5. But it's your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth. It's 4. But it's your sense gates. And the point there is, there's this information going in and out. There's this exchange going in and out with the world. And there is, what is this inside? What is that which actually experiences? We think it's me. But what does that mean? I am just an apparatus of cause and effect. What is this me? What is the experience? What is that? What is? Though this may be so, Taibei has misled a number of people and led them to trust the scale with a stuck pointer. By perpetuating this teaching, which he did, Taibei, in a sense, reified the teaching. The tradition, the shift in tradition from the scriptures to these dialogical exchanges, was a shift into an intentional lived experience of Buddha nature. By solidifying this teaching, me having it here reading to them, we have concretized this, and we've committed a great offense because we've killed it. It's no longer living if we're presenting this written teaching or this memorized teaching. Fooled, misled a number of people. Don't you know that one has to rinse out his mouth for 3 days if he's uttered the word Buddha? Again, that's a retelling of an actual story where somebody in a teaching context used the word Buddha and said, "Oh no!" That's just defiling things. Buddha is concretizing something that can't be concretized. The idea that there's a nature out there that we can talk about is missing the point. If he's a real Zen man, he will stop up his ears and rush away when he hears, "Mind is Buddha." Same idea. Oh, no, 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 you're locking it down. You cannot pin this down. You cannot do it in words. So these exchanges between the student and the teacher, the joke, the essence of the joke. What is the essence of the joke? It's not the words, really. It's context. If I were to sit up here and crack a joke in Spanish, somebody may have fluent Spanish, so you may get it. But the idea is you probably wouldn't. If I were to do it in a very distracted or a strange kind of manner, you wouldn't get it. If you were busy or preoccupied, you wouldn't get it. It's not just the words. There's some essence in a joke. There's context. There's environment. There's an aliveness about a joke. It doesn't work if it's not alive. So there was a story about Taibei. So Taibei, he got it and said, "Thank you," and he went off. And the idea is they mature. You go away and you mature your experience because you've got to stabilize in this awakened mind. It comes and goes, and you stabilize in this. And sometime after he went to live in his hermitage, Baso decided to test him, test his realization. So he sent one of his other students off to visit Taibei. And the person went and visited Taibei and said, "So how you doing? You know, how's life? So you've got some crops out here, blah, 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 blah. So how's that mind is Buddha going for you? How's your realization? Solid. You know, Master Basho doesn't teach like that anymore." "Oh, what does Master Basho teach?" "He teaches not mind, not Buddha." "Oh, well, that's nice. Good for him. He can keep all that nonsense. I'm fine with mind is Buddha. Thank you very much. Bye." So he wasn't fooled by the distraction. Baso was trying to see if he was stable, because for some students, not mind, not Buddha will be. Because that's also true. And not true. And neither true nor false, right? Can't land it. Can't land it. The poem. A fine day under the blue sky. Every day is a good day. That's a poem. Every day is a good day. Somebody was sick and was asked how they're doing. He said, every day is a good day. And it is. Every day is a good day. Just what it is. It's the way it is. It's perfect. The universe, life is incredible. A fine day under the blue sky. Really experience that. They're completely and utterly experiencing that. There's no me in that. You read a lot of the Japanese haikus, there's no me in there anyway. It's a description of the function of nature. It's not a description of flowers. They're pretty flowers, nice and red. It's the function of nature. There's a pond, frog jumps in. You know the haiku, I can't relate to it, but it's about an aliveness, directly experiencing that aliveness. This is grandmotherly kindness, as they say. Don't foolishly look here and there. Looking misses it. It's already right here. Already right here. If you still ask, what is Buddha? It's like pleading your innocence while clutching stolen goods. One of my favorite lines from the Quran is, I am closer to you than your jugular vein. Think on it. I am closer to you than your jugular vein. And yet we look right past it all the time. We miss it. So Mind is Buddha is talking, it's really a direct, to really structure around what I said a minute ago, which is how we experience the world. What we experience is all mind. Now, mind is not your brain. That's not what I mean by mind. But what is, I've got a cushion right in front of me here, orange and brown, and there's an orange mat underneath it, and one square, and there's a round thing on top, there are creases on it. There's a lot going on in that seeing. There's shapes, there's colors, there's memories mapping against it. And it's all going on in my head. Is that, there's something out here. Something out here. But what I'm describing is all going on in my head. All mind. All mind. If we see that clearly, and same here, all of this, all mind. So pause for a minute and listen. What do you hear? So there's some background noises, quiet background noises. And we hear those. But what we think is going on, we hear it, and probably, you may not have done this, but most people would do this. You immediately map. It's very quiet, humming noise. It's coming from over there. Sounds like AC. There's probably, I don't see any AC anywhere else. It's probably, there's a fan behind that screen. It's probably a HEPA filter. HEPA filter. I hear a HEPA filter. What you're hearing isn't a HEPA filter. What you're hearing is, it's like, what's this? What do you mean? No words. That's not just, it's just experience. And so there's all of this stuff going on there that makes stories out of the experience. That story becomes our life, and it's beautiful and wonderful and necessary, because it's what allows this thing to navigate the world, to interact in the world, to help others in the world. Without creating those stories, it couldn't happen. The problem is we take those stories as reality. We drop a me in the middle of that story, which doesn't belong there. It's an accident and a mistake. There's all these experiences. There actually isn't a me in the middle of it. But we create a me, and we reify all the stories, and we get stuck because that causes suffering. It's a whole bunch of sensory inputs, like without labels. Just all of that. And there's the, what is it that's the hearing? There's hearing going on. What is hearing? What is it? The aliveness. What is it? Different tradition completely. Nisargadatta. And the words game don't completely work, and we get in trouble with words, but Nisargadatta, who was a self-realized mystic in the Sanatana Dharma, the Hindu tradition, his first book, and the book that most people who read Nisargadatta will read, he didn't write anything. These were dialogues that he, like the Zen dialogues, and just have these conversations with me, longer, like half a page, couple of pages, some of them short. But the dialogues that he's really cutting through to just the naked truth to help people see themselves clearly. And the book is called I Am That. Tattvamasi, which is I am God, really. It's I am that. It really comes from the Hindu I am God, but it doesn't map because we use God in a different sense over here that's meant there. But he routinely said, the only thing you know, the only thing is I am. I am. Now you've got to throw the I out. And the Buddhists get stuck on, who's that I? You're stuck, there's an I. The I is just a tool, it's just a prop, it's a placeholder to give this a locus so we can actually focus on what's being said. The only thing you know, the only thing you actually know is I am. Everything else is fluid, changing, impermanent, illusory. The only thing you know is I am. What is that? So what happens with the koan, essentially, is the person gets a hold of that as a question. I can feel the truth of that, and I can feel the I am. And they just struggle with it, and they turn into this great ball of doubt around that question. What am I? Now, what is this I am? Not what am I? It could be what am I? It's the same question, but what is this I am? Don't want to make it too personal, because we've got a very egocentric culture. What is this I am? A great ball of doubt coalesces. And then when the time is right, the teacher will just tap it with a turning phrase, or sometimes it's a sweeping and a pebble hits a bamboo stick. So, oh, breaks open. And so you unify with the question, no subject and object, there is just the question. And then the question bursts open, and there is nothing but I amness. There's nothing but I amness. It's like, a fine day under the blue sky. Every day is a good day. That's mind. It's Buddha. It's also not mind, not Buddha. Because to call it that is to reify, to turn it into a thing, which you can't. Once you do that, you've corrupted it. I've talked long enough, probably done more than enough harm here, so let me stop.